Just arrived at the Freeman Hospital. Now, I'm not a patient. I'm actually visiting a close friend of mine, a friend called Richard, and I'm his carer. And he had a major heart operation last week, and on the first day or so we thought everything was getting better. Then we had a complications set in, so I was called into the hospital at 4 o'clock on Wednesday morning and didn't get out until 4 o'clock on Thursday morning. Went home, wrote a speech, and had only 3 hours sleep before I then went to a council meeting to set the budget, and I was moving the opposition amendment to it. So it was a bit of a hellish day then. Now, Richard seemed to be getting better. By Thursday evening, Friday morning, everything seemed to be improving. And then yesterday, Sunday, he seemed to be having a bit of a bad time. And by the evening we thought, actually, things are stabilised, and I was able to come home. And I've just had a phone call about 3/4 of an hour ago at home from Richard saying, please come in, he's feeling terrible. So I'm going to go in now. I'm not taking the camera in because, first of all, I don't think we're allowed to make video diaries in there, and secondly, I'm not going to invade Richard's privacy by filming him in hospital. Well, I've just managed to have lunch. The news is that Richard is having a bad day, but there's nothing critical, so the doctors have been to see him, and he's getting a bit of sleep now, so that was the opportunity to go and get some lunch. Had I not been here today, I would have actually been at home cleaning out the hen houses, so there you go, that's going to have to be done tomorrow. Richard's gone off for another echo scan, and we're now sort of mid to late afternoon, so I'll be leaving shortly because I've got to go to council for a meeting of the Corporate Resources Overview and Scrutiny Committee. What a mouthful. I've just driven through the rush hour traffic to get from the Freeman Hospital to here at Gateshead Civic Centre, where I'm about to go for a corporate resources meeting, and I had this bizarre experience on the way over. I passed this van which was for a company which cleaned wheelie bins, and I thought to myself, what is the use of that? Aren't you supposed to put rubbish into wheelie bins anyway, so why on earth do they have to be cleaned? It just seems like a completely useless activity. Good luck to the people who are making money from that useless activity, but it just seems to me, what a waste. Anyway, that rant over. I'm about to go into the Civic and go for the 5 o'clock meeting, which is a pre-meeting, and then 5:30 for the corporate resources. Hurrah. I'm in the Civic Centre now, actually in the opposition office, and as leader of the opposition I get my one and only perk, which is to have a swivel chair in the opposition office, and there we go, that's me swivelling. Now, this meeting I've got coming up is the corporate resources, and it's got a great item on the agenda today. Now, this sounds really dull, and it says it's the information governance and the Council's use of powers under the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000. Now, that is one hell of a mouthful, but what it actually is about is the way councils look after the data that they hold on people, and a huge amount of data, and of course the rules on accessing that data are being tightened up quite considerably. But it's also about the covert powers that councils can use to, shall we say, monitor people who may be committing an offence such as benefits fraud and so on. So actually it's quite an interesting discussion that we'll be having.
I'm always teaching when it's at 10 o'clock.
Thanks, Joe. And there's an awful lot of these terms that sound something like you'd expect in Orwell's 1984. You know, the covert human intelligence sources. You know, we used to call them test purchasers back in the olden days when I was younger. My question is about you've got an explanation of overt and covert surveillance. A lot of surveillance is done by just monitoring people's Facebook's accounts, which. So I'm interested to know whether that's covert or overt. According to the news today, there's a winter storm on its way to Britain from Siberia, no doubt from Russia with love, and it's going to be very cold this week with lots of snow. And we've just had a quick look out of the window, and yep, the snow is starting to fall, but we're going to be nice and warm.